Well, you cheaters and fans of info on the other world. Today I'll tell you about something that most of you probably skim over and don't even notice in actual games. Though it's highly probable this player is using auxiliary modules, this video will be useful not only to cheaters but also to regular players. Such videos educate and show what scripts can do. If I were just a regular player, I would certainly watch this to the very end to fully grasp how Dota's secret world is structured. Let's begin by exploring how the dodge mechanic first came into being. It all started with the fundamental mechanic of illusion creation. This concept migrated directly from the good old Warcraft 3, where the actual hero would completely vanish from the map, and then, as all illusions spawned, he would reappear on the map. The very same thing happened in the new version of Dota. I think many of you have already been able to connect these words with a certain item or a skill, and yes, if you thought of Manta style, then you are a confident user. This mechanic slowly but surely gained momentum. Players began experimenting and improving evasion, not only with this item but with anything that allowed them to avoid damage. That's why the mechanic transferred to Dota 2 without any changes, as its masterful execution required long years of practice and incredible reaction speed, which, one could say, wasn't widely adopted by most players. But progress never stands still, and scripts are coming to players' assistance. There exists a classification for skills and items and also for dodge types. I've separated them into 6 basic and 1 additional type, which is not available to ordinary players. Astral is at the very top of the list. In this specific case, the hero completely disappears from the map. Dealing damage to him is simply not possible. However, there is an exception in the form of 2 heroes. These are Shadow Demon and Outworld Destroyer. They possess inherent astral abilities, and should they employ their skills while in this specific state, they will be capable of inflicting damage. However, Valve chose to restrict it solely to this, and if we attempt to inflict damage with these heroes in any external astral condition, then the damage simply will not register. Therefore, this attack and there's some type pun, but these items and abilities can be considered the best for evasion. Next up are the wind items. This category doesn't have many items or abilities. Some of them are actually meant to be used against opponents. This leaves us with only 2 items. These are the standard dual scepter and the upgraded Wind Waker. But why do they override BKB immunity? It's quite simple. We avoid all types of damage, whether magical, pure, or physical. What's more, we prevent any modifiers from stacking on us. This means if we receive any stun while in BKB, then upon exiting it, we won't be able to escape its effects. The third category is BKB immunity. This is the most popular form of evasion in this game. All players utilize it since BKB is acquired by core heroes in nearly every match. This type of evasion grants a 60% magic resistance. Yes, not everyone knows, but in patch 7.33, Valve rebalanced this item. Now it no longer provides full immunity to this type of damage. But even so, an item can help you survive a crucial fight. Some heroes have built-in BKB. Common examples are Lifestealer and Juggernaut. Here, developers also made adjustments, removing 100% resistance, but it's slightly more than BKB's resistance, which significantly unlocks the potential for dodging through abilities. For additional item, you can also add the Minotaur Horn, which drops from the 5th neutral tier, but it doesn't appear very often. The 4th category is invisibility. In this state, you can avoid damage and parry projectiles flying at you. As a rule, these are stuns. Damage will only be avoided if, at the moment of going invisible, we are truly not visible to opponents. 5th, damage and skill reflection. This includes Blade Mail, followed by Lotus Orb, Nyx Assassin's Carapace, and the most popular evasion hero among cheaters is Anti-Mage. In his case, the button provides 100% resistance to any ability, allowing him to save not only himself, but also his ally. The 6th category of damage-absorbing items is Pipe of Insight, Solar Crest, Glimmer Cape, Guardian Greaves, and Crimson Guard. A 7th category is available for players on the dark side. I'll call it God Mode. It includes Armlet, Satanic, Ethereal, Blink, and many other secret abilities, which I'll explain as the video progresses. Now we will move on to the main point, setting up and demonstrating the Dodger's operation. What is this script capable of, and how can one function drive opponents absolutely crazy? I'm going to tell you about my personal tricks and setup secrets, how a level 1 crew can transform into a level 100 KFC boss, upon achieving which you'll raise your MMR in mere moments. Before we proceed to a detailed explanation of the configuration, a couple of words regarding the script's operational mechanics. How is it designed and what limitations can the script not escape? You think that after all these years, cheats would have reached their limit, but it's not that simple. The script analyzes the enemy hero's behavior, specifically their animation. It's unique for each ability and hero. Thanks to this mechanic, the script intercepts the pose and takes the necessary actions based on its state. However, this won't work against instant skills that have no cast time. If you're not familiar with what this is, I'll quickly explain it in layman's terms. Cast time is the period of time after which an ability will be fully executed, and the larger this window is, the easier it becomes for a dodger to evade. However, there are certain abilities that are exceptions. These are often hex-type abilities. Even though they might have an animation, the skill itself is applied instantaneously without any noticeable delay. So, it's fair to say, this is the only thing a dodger is truly powerless against. But otherwise, he can read flying particles from the fog of war without relying on the hero's animation. So, if you want to catch a cheater, use Hex. But even this, cheaters can counter. And how exactly, I'll tell you a little later. Start the product, enable the script, and assign the key to open the Dodger menu. Then enter the lobby, create your heroes, and make sure to press F7, because heroes in the lobby don't appear the same way as in the original Dota. After this, the hero's skills and items will be processed, allowing you to configure the script with maximum detail. Now the most crucial part begins, explanations and dependencies of the settings. Please try to carefully understand what I am saying and demonstrating. It is precisely at this stage that crucial information about how this particular module operates is conveyed. Within the menu tab and the Dodger section, you will be able to locate the conflict section. It contains pre-configured parameters, and by simply pressing buttons, you can either disable or enable specific sections. I don't recommend turning everything on, nor do I recommend turning it all off. Dodger isn't a feature you can just set and then forget forever. You always need to adjust it and pick the right value for each game. This is an easy path, but it's not very effective. Initially, the module will show you all abilities and items you can use to evade. They only appear if you actually possess that ability or item. For example, I'll take Ursa, buy a BKB and a Blink. Opening the menu, we'll see that everything we have has appeared in the very top menu. They are called general settings, and there's a reason for that. This section takes precedence over all others unless you set custom settings, but more on those later. As you can see, many items and skills are initially disabled. The skills and items that the module will completely ignore are circled in red. The green frame symbolizes what we will use to dodge, and in this case, we will pay attention to the sequence. It goes from left to right. This is the variation where the script will try to dodge enemy abilities. The module has built-in logic for optimal utility. If the script can walk away, it won't use a crucial item. But if it knows a stun or damage is coming, it will use an item. For example, let's buy a Glimmer. It ended up in the last place for us, which isn't entirely logical. What this means is, if we globally activate BKB, then it will be BKB that triggers on Lina's hypothetical stun, not Glimmer, because you've assigned this specific priority to the module, and to prevent such a situation from occurring, you must switch their positions. This is done by holding the mouse button and dragging items into place. Now Glimmer is in front of the BKB. If we use Ursa's stun, the module makes the right call, but all these global settings can often lead to incorrect dodger actions. Therefore, that's it for the so everything that is very important in the general section is, as a rule, completely turned off, and then the most challenging part of the setup begins, custom priorities and secret dodge tricks. This is something 90% of cheaters don't use, not even knowing this imba exists, something a regular player can't do and only a few pros can. Usually when opening the menu, players toggle on and off the enemy skill they don't want to dodge. That's where their setup ends. But what if I told you that you can turn your hero's counter pick into a punching bag? Remember how I said you can do things both quickly and with quality, and this is entirely what this script is all about. I spent 2 weeks setting up my Dodger config, sitting in the lobby picking each hero and fine-tuning unique values, calibrating it for half a year on my streams, constantly changing and adjusting values for my own gameplay. Now it's time to show you exactly how it's done. We're staying on that very same Ursa. We pick Axe as a counter, with Blade Mail and Blink. As it often happens, the hero gets caught at the most inopportune moment, and he simply kills himself from the damage reflected back. Many pro players from the comments will say, only a noob would get caught like that, I'll easily dodge it all. But let's be honest, only a few Dota players can stay focused and have godlike reactions throughout the entire game, and no human can compare to a dodger. And now I'll demonstrate this. I'll show you a few situations and settings. How can we turn our weaknesses into our strengths? The first setting is to define the priority. Right-clicking an enemy skill will show you two sub-options. Choose the left one. This is a custom value for that specific skill. If you then close this skill, you will see an icon like this right next to it. What does it mean? It means that within each skill, we can set a completely unique evasion priority independent of the general priority located above. So, if we enable everything generally and then go into the parameter, we can enable the items and skills we need that will only work for that specific skill. For example, I enable ULT and BKB. And you might ask, Dapchiku, why did you equip two BKB items at once? But don't worry, the module is capable of reading modifiers and it won't activate them all simultaneously. It will only do so if something is on cooldown, and the priority will be exactly as specified in this particular subsection. So, if we try to aggro axe, the Dodger will use their ultimate, but if the ultimate is on cooldown, the next item by priority is immediately activated, and that will be the BKB. And this is just the first part of how we turn our weaknesses into strengths. Now I'll show you another secret setting that could save your life more than once. This time we'll be taking on the enemy Legion Commander. I'm sure many of you have faced situations where this particular hero caused you a lot of trouble. But what if I told you that this hero can be completely countered by this module? From my previous statements, we remember that you can configure unique logic for each skill. And what if I told you that besides this, within the skill, we can change not only the priority but also enable sequential activation. And this is only done if it's necessary. If else, yeah, and the Legion Commander's duel is a perfect fit here. We open the Dodger menu and enable not only the left custom value parameter, but also custom priority within the sub item. Now, more detailed settings are available. We can drag sub items and their order of execution will not depend on the overall logic. However, if the situation forces you to press several items, the module will help you do this. The module manages to press on average up to 3 items or skills in an instant. We're going to include this within the script. I will demonstrate this using Satanic, Blade Mail, and Ursa's ultimate. Now, when Legion Commander attempts to attack us, believing we're an easy target, she will encounter enormous problems, because taking us down becomes incredibly difficult. If you think this module can only save you, then you are very much mistaken. In addition to this, the Dodger can also save your allies. There is a separate setting for this. Let's imagine a situation with the same Legion Commander. If she jumps on our carry, who has 2 rapiers, he will inevitably die. But we can save him by purchasing a Lincoln Sphere or an Ethereal Blade. Once these items are bought, they appear in our menu, and right-clicking on them brings up icons of allied heroes, showing on whom this item will work. You can disable everyone except yourself or your carries. And this is... And if Legion Commander jumps into your core and tries to duel, she will instantly give any item to save your ally. Before I move on to the next secret explanation, I'd like to remind you that you can save several weeks of your time figuring out and setting up not only the Dodger, but the entire product by supporting the channel and purchasing my private config, and in which absolutely all priorities and skills are configured, as well as the entire product. What you will need to do is enter a secret code. Until the new year, the price is slightly reduced. Later, the settings will cost 500 rubles, so if you're too lazy to figure it out, this is your best option. Now I'll tell you how to avoid unpleasant situations and also dodge those instant hexes that seem impossible to dodge. What kind of unpleasant situations am I referring to? Quite often, high ping prevents you from making a decision about a particular action. Therefore, we will work proactively and avoid them even before they are directed at us. And right now, I'm talking about blink, which opponents use to catch us completely off guard. And by default, the blink trigger function is actually disabled. But after what I show you, you'll definitely enable and configure it. You can find examples among many heroes with instant initiation. Let's take Enigma, a blink hero. Go to the menu, enable the blink item at the bottom, and recall my previous advice. If other heroes possess this item, we can disable who it targets. Also, configure the dodger's action, defining what it will do in this specific situation. However, I recommend dodging this maneuver precisely with blink, as the speed of its activation is crucial here. And what will happen if Enigma attempts to catch us even once? She simply won't be able to achieve anything. Our hero will always be one step ahead, because he reacts not to the skill itself, but to the animation. This will really help you out against Axe, Legion Commander, Magnus, Shaker, Pathreader, Pudge, and any other heroes who are trying to get to you. Even if you're playing CM and anti-mage jumps on you, he simply won't have time to land a single hit. Next up is a top tier trick for hex control. This will work against any hero with a blink ability, like Rasta, Lion, and that incredibly annoying Tinker. So what exactly should we do? Let's take any item that can counter this. Anything you have readily available will work. It's best to demonstrate this particular point on anti-mage. This hero is extremely susceptible to crowd control effects, and if we know that no stun or taunt can truly frighten him, because for a dodger these are mere trifles, then the module cannot foresee the future, where an instant hex without any cast animation will put him firmly in his place. But that's not what happened. Closer to mid-game, these heroes also gain a blink ability. By setting up a configuration, we create a trigger on a particle effect so that when danger arises, the dodger will activate an ability that will keep us safe. And for anti-mage, this is his inherent counter spell. And it turns out that as soon as the enemy hero plots something bad, the dodger will have already made a decision, and no player in the world can replicate that. As among its unique features, the dodger can effectively evade linear abilities such as Pudge's Hook, Invoker's Tornado, Mirana's Arrows, Phoenix's Birds, and many others. Furthermore, the module comprehends its surroundings, so it makes decisions very intelligently. Even when an enemy casts a skill on you that takes only a few milliseconds, it chooses an action that can fit within that time frame, instead of just trying to do something randomly. Neutral abilities are still on the menu. Yes, you can dodge them too, especially the Ogre Stun Club. You can keep it, just enable dodge moves. It's incredibly overpowered. I would like to make an important point that this very script gives you the ability to completely change the game's flow. The script performs actions in milliseconds, which completely disorients enemy players. I've already given examples of heroes that can be easily countered, but in this script, you can create so many situations that will simply baffle your opponents. Take Nyx for example, who runs around and kills any target with a combo, but by enabling one sub-item in the dodger, the hero becomes completely useless. And those who watch this video are probably thinking to themselves, okay, if you said the cheat detects animation, then can the dodger be tricked? Purely in theory, yes, it is certainly possible, but it's incredibly difficult. You can only fool it with a specific ability that launches instantly, without any visible projectile. For example, Ogre Magai's Fire Blast Stun, or Magnus's ultimate Reverse Polarity. But even here, you'll encounter serious problems, as the module understands it's being mocked and will use the ability at the very last tick, and it's very difficult to believe that playing Magnus and jumping into a team fight, you'll stand there mashing the button to try and knock a hypothetical Manta out of the hero. So we can say that the script is completely uncounterable. Dodgers support virtually every skill and item in Dota. You can dodge 99% of incoming skills, and most heroes' built-in abilities are also supported. A unit can dodge even with an illusion rune or with smoke. Based on experience and advice, the best heroes for dodging are those who have built-in evasion or damage reduction abilities while also having a minimal cooldown. Among such heroes, I would list Anti-Mage, Nyx, Ursa, Juggernaut, Ghoul, Phantom Lancer, Void, Storm, Oracle, and Ember. This module can be very helpful when playing complex heroes like Meepo or Morphling. Meepo wouldn't normally survive Access Aggro, Shaker's Ultimate, or Liches, but with this module, he won't have to fear it. When playing Morphling against stuns, the module will always automatically shift you to strength in danger. Finally, I'll mention what seems obvious to all. The higher your FPS and lower your ping, the faster it reacts and the greater chance of success it will have. Because in dodging, not just seconds, but every millisecond counts. Setting up your entire dodger for consistent play can take weeks to months, or a couple of days in the lobby where you'll create each character, buying all items, uniquely moving every sub-item. But even then, you'll only have it configured for 95% of in-game situations. Those 5% are unique moments you'll need to account for during the game itself. If you don't ignore this guide and truly commit to understanding one of the hundreds of scripts that give you incredible impact, the results won't keep you waiting long, and this is just one of dozens of global modules in the Umbrella product. If you want to get it for free, you can use the gift code UMBRELLA from my channel. It grants you a whole 10 days of the product. You don't need to pay for anything at all. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know your thoughts on the video. And at this point, I will say goodbye to you all. As always, your personal guide to the world of cheats, DODGER, has been with you. And until our next meeting.